Welcome to AAJ Television. We are here with a really prominent individual, Dr. Arun Garg. This individual has made difference in so many people's lives. Despite of all the degrees he's got, but what he's known for is being a true human being. He touches lives, anybody that he reaches. He continues to advocate for people. He continues to educate people. On top of that, he keeps on building various different relationships, all forms of the government, to make sure our community is well served. So AAJ Television, Magazine, Radio, we are very, very pleased to have such a fine individual here. Welcome to our show, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here too.
Well, thank you. You know, every time I go to events and I see you and your lovely wife, it warms my heart because you both give out such positive vibrations, and you're good with so many, everybody. You're so good with all people.
Well, that's very kind of you, but genuinely, it's blessings. We both feel blessed, and I think it's wonderful to be living in a great country, which gives you the opportunity. But most important, the people, and they respond to you. So I think it's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, thank you. Well, today on this show, we're going to get up close personal with Dr. Saab. We're going to find out a little bit more about him, where he was born, what his journey is, and why is it that he's doing what he's doing for people, for himself, for the family, and so forth. We're also going to talk to him about an organization that he's involved with, CINS. We're going to touch on the topic of the diabetes. And of course, everybody's talking about the coronavirus. It's pretty scary out there. We will ask a few questions about the coronavirus. So viewers, stay tuned and let's get right into it.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you born? About your family and so forth.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And once again, thank you for having me on the show. And I'm looking forward to sharing with your viewers and listeners and with you. My journey really started in a city, Agra.
Okay.
I was born in Agra in a family which my father was an educationist.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was a professor of chemistry.
Okay.
He was the first professor at a very famous educational institute in Agra called Agra College in those days, and he was the first professor after English left.
Okay.
So that was a hard act to follow.
Yeah.
And that really gave me tremendous love for education and learning, and that has stayed with me. But in terms of personal journey, I'm most influenced by my mother.
Okay.
Because my father was killed when I was only 5 years old.
Oh, gosh.
And so I was raised by my mother as a single mom.
So he was killed when you were 5 years old?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so all my journey has been greatly influenced by her, not only her teaching, but what she taught us as values. And I'm very grateful for that. And obviously my sister. Mm-hmm. And then in last years when I've been here, that has been influenced by my dear wife. And so I think that influence really shapes you who you are. Mm-hmm. So I'm very grateful for that positive support I've received. And always the theme was that do whatever you will, but give.
Give.
And if I may share with our viewers and
Please.
with you, what she used to say, never have your hand like this.
Okay.
Always have your hand like this. So always giving. And not that left a
So
big
when you
impression.
put it like this,
Yeah.
so you're giving.
Yeah,
Giving.
giving.
And this means receiving?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
So I
powerful.
think, that's very powerful icon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even these icons are very important. So I think as we are talking about role models and we are talking about what people think, I think what happens in early childhood, how you are raised, what values you receive makes a huge difference. They stay with all your life. Because I left India in 1965.
Oh, wow.
But just imagine the influence of this, my mother,
Yeah.
is with me even today, every
Let's
day.
let's reflect back a little bit more and tell us some of the fond memories or the teachings of your mom. You know, this is one thing, but to give is one very powerful memory. Any other memories that stick to your mind?
Well, I think obviously when you lose your father when you're 5, a very successful professional, and you go from being rich in the sense to have not, that survival, the
So,
survival instinct, And even in those days, he instilled in us never, never expect others. Do your share. And that stayed with us, because that's a very proud feeling, that you're achieving, right? And education is everything, Now, good thing of that is that I stayed with that, but the sidebar is that I was never any good in sports or those kind of things.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But in retrospect, that was wonderful because it made me who I am.
Well, you're a resilient man, I mean, we all have things that perhaps, are very painful and hurtful. So, if we label that as contrast, not everybody can come out of it and get good clarity out of it.
Yeah.
But, your resiliency from your contrast, you got good clarity out of it and you continue to use it for positivity, not only for yourself, but also the community.
I think you're right because I've been told many times people describe that I'm a doer or I'm a rainmaker, or if you have a problem, give to achieve it. But that's all focus.
Yep.
And that's another thing I learned. So persistence. So if you have an idea, do it. And maybe we could talk a little bit because in this journey, a very big focus for me has been who am I, and it's a work in progress.
And same with me. I think most of that, but yes, please
we'll talk.
shed light on. No, let's do it right now because I think it's great when somebody, especially with your status, can really do a journey within and can say, you know what, I want to talk about my journey. That's being human.
Yeah.
And often people get detached from the journey, and they go sideways. But you're obviously very grounded. So
No, I mean, after my basic education in India,
Yeah.
I was privileged enough that I was skipping classes and all that. So I had my grade 12 when I was 14 years old.
You were skipping classes.
Yeah, well, not in the sense of not going,
Oh, okay.
but skipping grades.
Oh, skipping grades. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I went, apparently I don't remember, but when I went for my admission, my first admission,
Okay.
they gave me some tests,
Okay.
and they say, okay, we'll start you in grade 4.
Okay.
So I started in grade 4 when I was 6 years old.
Really?
Missed all that other stuff. So I was always the youngest all my through journey, which had an influence on me in adaptability and with all these big guys, and I'm the little guy, But
Wow.
I started in grade 4.
At age of 6.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I stayed with that. So, but the short end of that is that I got grade 12 when I was 14 years old, right?
Okay.
And in India, going to medical school, you could go after grade 12,
Right.
but you have to be 17 years old.
Okay.
So I was 3 years short.
Right.
So I said, okay, I'll go and do other academics. So that led that I ended up doing a master's in chemistry.
Okay.
And with that, and with my desire to fulfill unfulfilled work of my father of attending a university overseas, I combined that together and I applied to Canadian universities, and I end up in Saskatchewan. And that is interesting because in 1965, nobody from India was going to Canada.
Okay.
Everybody was running to UK or USA or whatever.
Yeah, England was a big
So
hotspot.
people said, "You're crazy. I'm going to Canada."
Yeah.
And even in Canada, Saskatchewan, of all the places, I had the opportunity to go to UBC and University of Nova Scotia and Saskatchewan, and I chose Saskatchewan.
Wow. Because a lot of people that came from India back in the day, most of them came to BC first, but you went straight to Saskatchewan.
Yeah, and I had the opportunity to go to UBC.
Yeah.
But don't ask me why, but must be destiny.
Yeah.
And I have not looked back.
Okay.
We did a lot of good things in Saskatchewan. Met my wife there. We are celebrating our 50 years being together this year.
Congrats.
So that's my journey from India to Saskatchewan.
Okay. How long were you in Saskatchewan?
I was there for 5 years and did my PhD there.
Okay.
And, left Saskatchewan on June 1970, and
Okay.
we've been in British Columbia since, and I've been affiliated with the Royal Columbian Hospital
Right.
since. So not only we are celebrating 50.
Saturdays at 1:30 p.m., Alive with Aman brings you important conversations with leaders in our communities. Fridays at 8:30 p.m., join Rasta Mike for a look at African and Caribbean culture through music and community events, presented in English.
With my marriage, or our marriage, but also 50 years of continuous service in health system in British Columbia through Royal Columbian Hospital.
Wow.
So feel very good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's bring everything up to speed. I know you're involved with a number of organizations. Before we get into CINS, tell our viewers, what initiatives are you involved with? What is it that you do currently?
Okay, well, it's hard to talk about oneself, but I think in your previous pre-conversation, you wanted to share what makes GARC tick. So I think that's what I will use, that stimulus. I think so professionally, after doing my PhD, I felt that if I was going to work in health field, I should have a doctor degree as well. So
Okay.
It's kind of not very common that after you've already got a career, have a PhD, that you will go further. So I went and got my MD.
Okay.
So interesting about that is that being youngest always in any class, because what we talked about
Right.
earlier,
Yeah.
I became one of the senior or the oldest in the class, because now I was already 26, 27 at that time, and most of the kids coming are 21.
Right.
And that all influences you.
Sure it is.
It forms your personality
Yeah.
and how you behave. So
Yeah.
I think that all played. And then after my MD, I made sure that we also get a specialty training, so Royal College Fellowship, so that's 40 years. And so with that, then I became very active in service of laboratory medicine. And we are very proud of affiliated with what we created. I was very fortunate to have a mentor who gave me a place in Royal Columbian Hospital, and I want to recognize Dr. Cam Cody for giving that opportunity in 1970, and then more important in 1980 when I started to work as a consultant. So we did all that work and consultant, and very happy that one of the best integrated lab services I've been part of.
Okay.
And I've been part of as a provider, as a builder, as a leader in that community. So much so that your listeners, which mostly are in this area, so in the public sector where we are, all the hospitals are fully integrated with the lab medicine. So it doesn't matter whether you live in Burnaby, that's where we start, to Boston Bar, to Hope, doesn't matter where you go, your lab work is standardized and integrated and of the same caliber and quality. And that
Beautiful.
takes a lot of work and have been part of that journey. So,
Well, that itself takes a lot of work, but I go to attend so many events to support the events, and I see you at most events. How do you find time to support?
I think that goes back with that very deep instilled thing, always give, right? So while I'm doing the work in the hospital and providing these individual services, health is so big. And so I feel that we need to create capacity in the community to empower the community itself for better health. So that's my passion in health, And attending the community events is a sense of belonging. And
It is.
we feel, both my wife and I, that we are integral part of it. It's our extended family, so we try to support it whenever we can.
That's a very powerful statement. When you talk about some of our basic survival needs, it's the need to love, to receive love and love. The other big part of it is a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't hear too many people say that.
I'm very proud of that, And the other thing which makes a very big part of my life is that when I was in Saskatchewan, I was the first so-called foreign student there. It was a new university, just started. They had University of Saskatchewan, but Regina campus. So that gave me an opportunity to build new innovations around how to bring everybody together. So we started an International Student Association, and the purpose of that was to have Canadians and other countries together, and that's where I met my wife, as a matter of fact.
Oh, nice.
So I think that desire to belong and create family, extended family, I think it's in the blood.
Yeah. That's true. It is. It's part of a DNA if you look at it.
Yeah.
All right, and then so part and parcel of your extended family, you've created the CINS.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, that has a very interesting origin, and my focus has been health, and I've been working in health field, and in this journey, beside the professional group, I've participated in and made myself connected with all the organizations. Like in those days, we used to call it BC Medical Association. Now it's called Doctors of BC. So I was professionally very active in it. So much so, was president of it in 93, 94. And what I'm proud of that is during that year, before that, we were fighting with the government. There was a whole bunch of fights because there was a misunderstanding, just not enough respect for each other. So during my presidency, we brought it all to close.
Okay.
We signed an agreement. And that agreement, in one form or other, has stayed.
Okay.
And British Columbia is the only province in the country that since 93, 94, that when that agreement was signed, which is like close to over 25 years of definitely, the government and doctors have worked together.
Okay.
And that is very satisfying to me, because I was in Ontario, Manitoba, now in Alberta. There is always conflict. And it's so critical that the doctors and the government of the day find a way to work together.
Right.
And I think that was... So while I was doing that, obviously the premier of the province get to know your work and find... So they were interested in building better links with India.
Okay.
So I was asked to chair a India Market Advisory Committee.
All right.
So now that was quite a switch for a doctor to go from health to now really the market economy. But I took that challenge and we presented a report, and that report had close to 12 recommendations. And again, I'm very pleased that the government of the day accepted about 8 or 9 of those. And that was based on how to increase trade between Canada and India.
So that all falls under the banner of CINS?
No,
Or no?
that came later.
Okay.
So that gave me a vision that there is a real common pathway for building Canada and India.
Okay.
So this was mostly business related, how to increase economy.
Right.
And when we published that report, I'm taking a little time because you have to put the context right?
Of course.
Yeah. And so when we published that report, the Council General of the day, Mr. Kumar, was very pleased with the report.
Okay.